The first time I saw Melissa Hart, she had two sheriff's deputies standing on my porch like I'd robbed a bank. And she was behind them smiling like she'd just won a raffle. She pointed at my cabin and said loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "This property is under investigation. My husband is federal." And right then, watching my front door become a stage for her little power trip, I realized I hadn't rented a quiet lake cabin. I'd walked straight into somebody else's scam. I came to Cedar Hollow for one thing: silence. Silver Pine Lake was supposed to be my reset button: pine trees, cold water, a dock that creaked when you stepped on it, and a little cabin far enough from the city that no one cared what time you worked or how many calls you took. I told the leasing office I was a government security contractor because it's a neat little phrase people don't ask follow-up questions about. Most days it works. People nod back off and let you live. But HOA people hear government and see an opportunity to cosplay authority. It was Monday, 8:03 a.m., the kind of morning where the fog sits on the lake like a blanket and the world feels quiet on purpose. I was still half asleep, coffee in hand, when the doorbell rang like an alarm. Not one press, not polite. A rapid-fire hammering that said, "Open up, citizen." I opened the door and there she was. Blonde bob blazer, big sunglasses like she was hiding from paparazzi, and a clipboard held high like it was the Constitution. "Melissa Hart," she announced. "HOA Enforcement Director for the Cedar Hollow Property Association." I blinked at her. "Hi, I'm just renting." She cut me off with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Step outside, please. This is an official inspection." Official. That word. That's how they do it. Say it like it's a badge. Before I could even process what was happening, she was walking around my cabin taking photos like I was a crime scene. She leaned over my porch rail and snapped pictures of my doormat. She crouched near the dock and measured something with a little tape measure like she was collecting evidence. Then she looked back at me and said, "You're in violation." Of what I asked. She tapped her clipboard. "Lakefront access, Section 12.3A. $200 due in 48 hours. I stared at her. "I haven't even accessed the lake." Melissa shrugged, all innocence. "Your presence implies usage, and if you don't comply, we report to federal environmental agencies." Cedar Hollow takes water quality very seriously. The way she said federal, like she was savoring it. I closed the door, went inside, and pulled up the bylaws she so proudly referenced. Section 12.3A didn't exist. Not a typo, not a misread. It literally wasn't there. I scrolled twice, then printed the whole thing just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. That was the first moment I felt it, this slow, sour twist in my gut. This wasn't just a nosy HOA lady. This was someone inventing rules because she liked the sound of them. Over the next 2 weeks, Melissa Hart became a sunrise in my life. Every morning, like clockwork, she appeared. And every day, she found something new to find. Day 5, she measured the grass near the dock. 2.9 inches, she announced like she was reading my sentence. Maximum is 2.5. "It's winter," I said. "Grass doesn't." She held up her hand. "Ignorance of HOA standards is not a defense." Day 8. Noise violation. She claimed my TV was too loud. I hadn't even turned it on. Day 12. BBQ smoke impacting water quality. I grilled one burger. One. She acted like I'd built a refinery, and the whole time she kept dropping that same little line like a magic spell. "My husband is federal." At first I thought it was just ego, but then I noticed something else: how the neighborhood went quiet when she walked by. Curtains moved, doors closed, conversations stopped, people vanished. One evening I ran into an older woman by the mailbox, Mrs. Park. She looked like she'd lived at Silver Pine Lake long enough to know which boards on the dock creaked and which ones would send you straight into the water. I asked her casually, "Is the HOA always this intense?" Her smile flickered like her face forgot how to do it. "Just pay," she whispered, like she was telling me the safest route out of a burning building. "If you argue, she makes it worse." That sentence stuck in my head. Just pay, like it was ransom. Over the next few days, I talked to more neighbors quietly because everyone acted like Melissa could hear thoughts. The Ramirez family with 2 kids who never played outside anymore. Dr. Singh, a guy with a nice car who suddenly parked it behind his house like he was hiding it from the sun. Tara Walsh, a single mom who looked exhausted in a way that wasn't just parenting. Same story every time. Melissa would show up with a clipboard and a fake smile, hand out fines like Halloween candy, and if anyone questioned her, she'd threaten something bigger. "I'll report you. I'll get an inspection. I'll contact the county. My husband is federal." And the worst part? It worked. Because fear is cheaper than lawyers, and people with jobs and kids and mortgages don't want to gamble their lives on principle. Then came the federal compliance briefing. That's what the letter said. Thick white envelope, bold text. Even a little seal-looking logo that made it seem official if you didn't stare too long. Attendance mandatory. Failure to attend would result in enhanced scrutiny. I walked into the clubhouse that night and saw a room full of adults sitting like scolded children. Melissa stood at the front projector behind her, the HOA logo on one side and a suspiciously government-looking emblem on the other. She smiled at the crowd like she was doing everyone a favor. "Cedar Hollow has been selected," she said, "for elevated compliance review. My husband's department specializes in residential security considerations." Someone near the back raised a hand. A guy I didn't recognize, maybe new. "Which agency is this through?" Melissa's smile didn't falter. "Questioning federal procedure is noted," she said lightly like she was joking, "and usually leads to enhanced attention." The room went dead silent. I could feel my blood rising. Not just anger, something sharper. Disgust. Because she wasn't just fining people. She was training them to be afraid. She was turning a neighborhood into a hostage situation with landscaping rules. That night I went back to my cabin and sat at the kitchen table with the fines spread out like a losing hand. The lake outside was black and still, the kind of calm that makes you feel alone even when you're surrounded by trees. I remember thinking, maybe I should just pay and leave. Maybe I should stop poking the bear. Maybe this isn't my fight. And then the other thought came, quiet but heavy. What if I'm wrong? What if this is just some overzealous HOA thing and I'm letting pride turn it into a war? What if I push too hard, expose too much, and I drag innocent people into something uglier than fines? What if I wreck the life of a federal agent who's done nothing wrong, just because his wife is out here playing dictator with a clipboard? I sat there a long time, staring at the paper, hearing Melissa's voice in my head. Official inspection. Enhanced scrutiny. My husband is federal. For the first time in a long time, I felt tired. Not the normal tired. The kind where you start negotiating with your own dignity. The kind where giving up feels like relief. And then 2 days later, she crossed a line that snapped me right out of it. It was a Saturday. My family drove up to visit, just a simple weekend, my wife excited to see the lake, the kids running ahead toward the dock. I hadn't even unpacked the groceries when I heard tires crunching in the driveway. 2 deputies stepped out of a cruiser. Behind them, Melissa Hart emerged like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. She pointed at my cabin, then at my family, and said, "I reported suspicious activity. This is a security matter." My wife's face tightened. My youngest clung to her leg. The deputies looked uncomfortable, like they already regretted being there. I walked down the porch steps, hands visible, calm voice, because you learn fast that calm is a weapon too. "Officers, what seems to be the issue?" One deputy cleared his throat. "We got a call about possible illegal occupancy and concerns about safety." Melissa chimed in immediately. "He refuses inspections. He's hostile. He's violating lakefront compliance and with children present." She leaned toward my wife like she was doing her a kindness. "Ma'am, you don't know what kind of man he is." That's when I realized her goal wasn't the fines. The fines were just the leash. Her goal was control, fear, public humiliation, the feeling of power you get when you can point and the world moves. I looked at the deputy. "Do you have a warrant?" He shook his head. "No." "Then nobody's coming inside," I said gently, "and I'd like the incident number for this call." Melissa's eyes flashed. "You can't speak to them like that." I turned to her, still calm. "Actually, I can. They're here because you called them, not because you own my front door." She opened her mouth probably to say federal again, but the deputy raised a hand. "Ma'am, if there's no immediate danger, we can't." Melissa stepped closer. voice low but sharp. "My husband is federal." And that was it. That was the moment I stopped considering whether I was overreacting. Because she wasn't just threatening people with HOA nonsense anymore. She was weaponizing law enforcement. She was using the word federal like a club. That night after my family went to bed, I started building a binder. Not a metaphor. An actual binder. Printed bylaws. Copies of every fine. Photos of her fake briefing letter. A timeline of her visits. Notes from neighbors' dates, amounts, threats. And because I'm me, I also pulled the dispatch audio request for the 911 call. I documented everything clean and quiet like a storm forming under the surface. A few days later, Melissa came back with backup some guy with another clipboard and a paper that said, "Child Safety Assessment," complete with an emblem that looked like it was designed in 10 minutes on a free website. "We need to enter the home," she said, sweet as syrup. "Routine." My wife stepped into the doorway. "No." Melissa's smile went brittle. "Refusing makes you look guilty." My kid, half awake behind my wife, whispered, "Dad, are we in trouble?" Something inside me hardened so fast it felt like a click. I stepped forward. "Get off my porch." Melissa tilted her head. "Ethan, you're making a mistake." "No," I said. "You've been making mistakes. For weeks. You just didn't meet anyone willing to stop you." 2 nights later, she tried to play her biggest card. A black SUV pulled into my driveway after dark. The porch light caught the shape of a man stepping out, tall, professional posture, the kind of calm you recognize when you've worked around it. He walked up the steps with Melissa right behind him, practically glowing with smug satisfaction. "This is Agent Ryan Hart," she announced to my front door like she was presenting a trophy. "My husband. Federal. We're going to have a discussion." Ryan's eyes flicked to hers, something tense and tired there, like he didn't want to be doing this, but he'd been dragged into it anyway. I opened the door wider and let them see the kitchen table. The binder was sitting there thick and organized like a quiet threat. Next to it, a stack of printed emails, screenshots, and a notepad full of dates. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Ryan stepped inside, looked at the table, then looked at me. The air shifted. His voice dropped. "Sir, are you?" Melissa laughed nervously. "He's just a contractor, honey. Show him your badge." Ryan didn't reach for his badge. His attention stayed on me like his instincts were screaming. "What's your name?" he asked. I stood up slowly. "Supervisory Special Agent Ethan Carter." The words landed like a dropped weight. Ryan went pale. "Sir?" Melissa's face drained of color. "That's not possible." Ryan's voice shook just a little, the way it does when reality punches you. He's my supervisor." Melissa blinked fast. "No. No, you said he was." I slid the binder across the table toward Ryan and watched Melissa's hands start to tremble. "Your wife has been using your name," I said quietly. "Threatening residents, forging documents, calling cops, extorting families. And tonight she brought you here to intimidate me." Ryan flipped the binder open. The first page was the fake federal compliance briefing letter, then the fines with made-up sections, then witness statements, then the dispatch audio transcript from the sheriff's call. Melissa backed up like the paper itself was radioactive. "Ryan, you don't understand." Ryan's eyes were locked on the evidence now, not on her. "Melissa, what did you do?" She tried to pivot, desperate. "I was protecting the neighborhood. People need structure." I leaned forward, voice low and steady. "Real authority protects people. What you've been doing is control." Melissa's mouth opened, but no words came out, just that hollow, panicked breathing when someone realizes the game is over. Ryan stepped back from the table, pulled out his phone, and made one call. Short, controlled, professional. Within minutes, the same porch Melissa loved to use as a stage filled with real consequences. Not HOA letters, not clipboard theater, the kind that doesn't care about her smile. When the cuffs went on, Melissa turned toward me, eyes bright with furious tears, like she still couldn't believe the world wasn't obeying her anymore. "You ruined me," she hissed. I met her stare. "No, Melissa, you did." And as they walked her off my porch, still protesting, still trying to use Ryan's title like it could save her, she finally looked small, not powerful, not official, just a bully caught in the light. Lesson: never confuse loud paperwork with real authority, because the truth doesn't need a clipboard to win.